Hello, my name is Mary.
My name's Luke.
And welcome to Totally Schway Flip Side, a podcast about whatever the hell I want it to be about. But the next several episodes are going to be special episodes because the man, the myth, the legend is dawning our screens again. Batman, Caped Crusader, is finally going to be here, and we are going to have a beautiful time with it. So the next 10 episodes are going to be about Caped Crusader.
Yeah, but we're not going to follow the same pattern as we did with X-Men 97, where we did an episode every 2 weeks. What we're going to do is we're just going to drop all 10 episodes on Caped Crusader launch day and, listen to them after you've watched the show. Or if you have no intention of ever watching the show, then it's okay to listen to it.
But literally, I'm going to tell y'all right now, there are going to be some spoilers. It's going to be, not just some, it's going to be spoiled if you haven't watched it. So please watch it on Amazon.
Yeah, and you can also watch my review on my channel, which will have gone live by now, I'm sure.
What's your channel? Who?
Nobody cares who I was until...
I have... Actually, Luke, how have we got to watch this ahead of time?
Piracy.
Oh, no.
No, it's a joke, sorry.
No.
So it's just one of these random things in life. So somebody reached out to me. A man named Michael Trudelinsky, sorry, I had to double check his surname there, who is an author and Batman expert in Poland. He just reached out to me and said, oh, by the way, this Amazon PR people are taking sign-ups for the Batman Caped Crusader press screenings. If you're interested, contact this person. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm interested.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I sent them an email and thought nothing more of it. A couple of days later, very late at night, I got an email saying, here is your link to the Batman Caped Crusader press screening. I was like, all right, I'm getting out of bed and I'm going to go watch this. And thinking...
that he did.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
The whole thing.
Yeah, thinking that it was only going to be like the first episode, maybe 3 episodes at most, because that sometimes is what happens
That's
with,
a screener,
with
yeah.
press screeners. No, it was the whole series, all 10 episodes. And I found myself sat there and watching the whole thing until about 2 a.m. And I was like, oh no, I've got to go to work in 4 hours.
But you ended up doing, you went to work the next day. And,
yeah, it was all fine.
Yeah,
it was all
worth
fine.
It.
I was energized by watching a very compelling Batman cartoon.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the first episode today.
Yeah. Episode 1. Now, okay, first and foremost, let's say, how do you like the look of Batman?
I do like the look. He's got the short gloves and the long boots and the big pointy ears that are at a slight angle. It's very recognisably Batman. Yeah. The funny thing is that in a lot of like the pre-release material, like the press releases that were sent out with interviews with Bruce Timm and James Tucker and the like, they talked about how different their Batman was. I didn't think he was actually that different.
No, what did I say? I said something like, this reminds me of like the Justice League Unlimited Batman ears or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't merely talking about his physical appearance. I was more talking about like the way he acts.
Yeah.
So the thing with like Kevin Conroy's Batman, obviously he's the best Batman. There's no argument there.
There's no argument.
The thing with him is that, okay, he was stern, but there was also a lot of warmth and compassion in his voice. Now, Hamish Linklater's Batman is emotionally detached. So he has similarities with Kevin Conroy's Batman, obviously, because everyone that plays Batman tends to do that now. But he doesn't have the warmth in his voice. And there was one scene early on, Bruce Timm and James Tucker had both talked about how, Bruce Wayne is a facade. He's a weird guy, We
love weirdos.
And Bruce Wayne is going to a party, a policeman's fundraiser that's being held on the Iceberg Lounge, which is a boat in this, as a gambling boat, so they can go out to sea and do illegal things and then sail back in to American waters and no crime was committed.
Exactly.
But there's a moment where he's using his normal Batman voice talking to Alfred, or Pennyworth, as he calls him.
Pennyworth.
Yeah. And then he turns around and he sees that there are people on the boat already. And he puts on this really forced fake smile. Like, you can't see that because it's audio. But it genuinely made me laugh. And it was like a really just unnatural smile. No one would normally smile like that. And I thought, yeah, okay, that is pretty weird.
I'm going to say this right now. And I am very much a Kevin Conroy person. Like, that is my favorite Batman forever, always. Hamish did a great job.
Yeah, he does.
Like, I wasn't surprised. I mean, they're not going to pick someone to play Batman and not, pick the right guy. But I had doubts. But, like, literally in that first episode, I was like, shit. He's good.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, you say there's no warmth, but I'm like, this is something I wanted out of Batman, is to have that sort of just, don't have emotion behind it, like, because these need to, stuff needs to happen. I do feel that there are episodes where there is warmth when it deals with, like, there's some episodes that we'll talk about where I'll tell you where the warmth was, especially if it deals with kids or something.
Yeah.
But in some of these episodes, when you're dealing with, like, dirty cops, which is what we're dealing with in this episode,
Yeah.
You don't have to have warmth. You don't have to have a great deal of empathy for that, for all of that. So,
No.
can I say the first spoiler?
Can I introduce it, though?
Oh, yeah, you can introduce it.
Yeah, okay. So I'll talk about the very opening of the episode, which, through just some weird glitch on the viewing platform, Mary had to watch like 3 times.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's a guy tied to a chair and he's being interrogated by, you can't really see who they are because he's in a dark room with a heavy light above him, so he's kind of in a spotlight.
Yeah.
And they're saying to him, look, we know you're the guy that's been feeding information to Rupert Thorne. And he's protesting his innocence. Like, I swear I didn't do it. You know me. I've worked with you for years. I would never betray the boss. And the interrogator's like, well, yeah, I believe you, but, the boss still needs to come and talk to you. Mm-hmm. And then the door opens and we see the silhouette of the Penguin.
Yes.
And the guy that's tied to the chair just has a complete breakdown. He's like weeping and screaming, going, please, boss, please, no, I'd never. I'm loyal.
I'm going to say it now.
And out comes the umbrella with the blade.
Yes.
And that's all you see.
Yes. And let's just say that Penguin is a mama.
Yes, so...
Lady Penguin!
Yes, so there were some rumours about this before the show came out. I've seen a couple of people leave comments on my videos going, Penguin's a lady. Like, okay, fine. And that's obviously why they didn't show the Penguin in any of the trailers. Just the Penguin silhouette. And I feel like they made a very deliberate choice there by taking one of the most famous Batman villains and changing her up. That's kind of their mission statement for this series. Taking what we already know, adjusting it, and trying to make something new and something different.
Oh, and there's one thing in my mind that I kept repeating to myself, was refreshing. Refreshing. It's not necessarily brand new, but it's a refresh of material. And it was when I saw Lady Penguin, because Luke watched it before me, as soon as I saw it, like, I felt the smile on my face. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yes, and it's interesting that this penguin, the Lady Penguin, is a towering figure. She's like massive. I'm not saying obese. She's like tall, broad shoulders, thick limbs. And I mean thick as in like wide, not thick as in sexy. And she's a show singer aboard the Iceberg Lounge.
Very Mae West inspired, I think.
That's it, Mae West, yes. Yeah. And the thing is, so this penguin has a public face, which is Penguin the entertainer, the singer, the dancer, the fun club personality. But then there's also the real Oswalder Cobblepot. Actually, I didn't like the name Oswalder. They just put an A on Oswald.
That was the only thing I was like,
Yeah, why didn't they just call her Ozzy?
Yeah.
Because, there's Ozzy and then there's Ossie. Ossie is a feminine name. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not that important. Because Mrs. Cobblepot, or Miss Cobblepot, identifies as Penguin. That's what she likes to be referred to as. Yeah. People come up to her and say, hey, Penguin, how you doing? And she's got her tuxedo with her purple hat, a bit like Burgess Meredith. I thought that there's going to be... So her two sons are in this, and I feel like this is going to annoy certain people, because I felt like they were very obvious parodies of Donald Trump's eldest sons. You know, basically dimwits. They physically resembled them as well. Mm-hmm. Particularly the shorter blonde one. He looked a lot like Eric Trump. It was the teeth more than anything. The ambitious, what are their names? Aaron and Ronnie, I think.
Yeah.
I think. And Aaron is the blonde one and Ronnie is the dark-haired one. Mm-hmm. Now, Ronnie, when he's introduced, he's going on about what better class of people there are on this party, you know, and he's got ketchup all over his suit or cocktail
a trashy
sauce.
Person calling other people trashy when he can't even get it straight himself.
And what he's been doing is he's been leaking information to Rupert Thorne, Penguin's gang rival. And Rupert Thorne is at this party, and he approaches Penguin and says, my building was attacked last night. It got blown up. Fortunately, a little birdie called me ahead of time, and I was able to escape. And he implies that it is Aaron Cobblepot that's been telling him information, when actually it's Ronnie. Mm-hmm. But Penguin's response to this is to take both of her sons down into the underbelly of the Iceberg Lounge, and she has her henchman Iggy, who is this like 7 foot tall, 4 foot wide black guy, grab Aaron, shove him in a suitcase, and then chuck him into the sea, and he drowns. And I thought there was a wonderful line from Penguin where she says, "Oh baby, of course I forgive you. You know me, Mama doesn't hold a grudge for very long." Mm-hmm. And then has him murdered, and then he goes, "Oh, it's such a shame because he was my favourite." And then she turns to Ronnie and says, "I guess you're my favourite now."
Yeah. So I'm gonna go into the second spoiler, right?
Okay, go on then.
And this is gonna disappoint some people. Well, I think it's gonna disappoint some people because it's disappointed me a little bit. Bullock is a dirty cop.
Yes, yeah, and we don't mean, he bends the rules. Like, he is an informant. A
dirty cop.
So when Ronnie turns on Penguin after witnessing his brother's murder, and he goes to the cops to testify everything he knows about Penguin's operation, Bullock calls Penguin directly and says, "Your son's here and he's talking."
Yeah.
And Penguin's response to this is she blows up the GCPD, because her ship, the Iceberg Lounge, has got like a top hat and an umbrella on top of it, a massive prop. Very much like something you'd see in the 1950s Batman comics. But the umbrella is actually a artillery cannon. And she has been launching missiles at Rupert Thorne's buildings from her lounge, the Iceberg Lounge. And now she's firing at the GCPD HQ. She doesn't care what's going to happen to all those people in there. No. And there's a really damning scene with Bullock. He had been interrogating some woman. He had her handcuffed to his desk.
Oh, yes.
And after he calls the Penguin, he hangs up and then he leaves with the woman still handcuffed to the desk.
But guess who sees that? Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara does. But then, obviously, Bullock knows what's going to happen. He knows the missile's coming. He's leaving that woman to die. Yeah. He doesn't care.
No, he does not care.
And I should add that Bullock's partner is Detective Flass. Now, Detective Flass was in the Batman Year One comics, and he was a big, tall, blonde guy. In this, he's African-American. Mm-hmm. Again, no problems with switching gender, switching race, nothing like that.
No, we love that.
So long as their ethnicity isn't an intrinsic part of their character.
Exactly.
So, for instance, a lot of Marvel characters that were made in the 70s that were African-American, people like Black Panther, Black Goliath, etc., being African-American was pretty much their entire character. Although, actually, Black Panther was African, not African-American.
That's right. I was about to say, like, you've already fixed it.
I know. So basically what happens then, if you were to change the race of those people, you're taking away like their whole character, and that just doesn't make any sense.
But like I said, this was refreshing.
Yeah, but someone like Commissioner Gordon being made African-American, not a big deal, because his ethnicity is not a big part of his character. Same thing with Detective Flass.
Yeah.
And if anything, if they'd kept the original character design, I feel like there would have been potentially unpleasant racist undertones.
Yeah.
Because Bullock is a big white guy, Flash a big white guy as well, often picking on and attacking the poor of Gotham, many of whom are ethnic minorities. I think that would have been quite unpleasant.
But it made me feel like it was today, even though I know it's ambiguous on what year it is, but it made me feel like this could have been something that was happening today.
Yes.
And I loved that.
And that's a point that we should bring up about Caped Crusader in general, is that a lot of the early press release material talked about how it was set in the 1940s. Mm-hmm. It's not. It is not set in the 1940s. They never say what year it is. It's a world that is inspired by the aesthetic of the 1940s.
Yeah.
There's no racial segregation. There's no references to looming war in Europe, you know? Mm-hmm. There are women in the workplace, and women sometimes have positions of authority.
Power. Yeah, of authority and power.
Yeah, which we'll get to in a later episode. Mm-hmm. And I think that they've really handled making the cast of characters more diverse in a very smart way. They don't make a big deal out of it. They're not, some people might call it virtue signaling, going, "Oh, look, this is my, my gay disabled son, and I'm totally fine with that." They don't even mention any of that stuff. It's just these people exist, and they continue to live their lives peacefully. And, well, I wouldn't say happily for all of them, but they exist, and it's not a big deal. Now, Bullock and Flass make some pokey remarks at Barbara Gordon and Renee Montoya about their gender, but that's because they are bad guys. And as you said, some people are going to be quite upset about the characterization of Bullock. Mm-hmm. You might say that, oh, was it really that bad that he told the Penguin? Yes, because he left that woman to die. And he does a lot worse things later on in the show.
Yes.
Much worse. And I feel like that's probably the thing that's going to get a lot of backlash. But the thing you have to remember about this show, and I'm sorry I've been talking for ages, I'm going to let you speak in a minute, Mary.
You're saying what I would say.
The thing is, this show existing does not erase anything that came before it.
No, it doesn't.
The same way that Batman the Animated Series didn't erase the Adam West Show. It didn't erase the Super Friends. And the Dark Knight movies didn't erase Batman the Animated Series. They all still exist. If you end up watching this and decide, do you know what, it's not for me, totally fine. Go and watch the stuff that you do enjoy. But at the same time, you do not get to say that this show shouldn't exist because of some bad faith argument about, mandatory diversity or something like that,
Yeah, this is not an extension of Batman the Animated Series, and it never claimed to be. They never claimed that. And if you don't like it, like Luke said, you don't like it. But I do.
Yeah, I really liked it.
I really liked it because, I'm going to say that R word one more time, refreshing. It was just so nice to watch a TV show where you didn't have to mention anything about the person. You could just show it about the person, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's like real life, guys. There are people like this in real life. I mean, I don't know about vigilantes. I'm not sure about that. I'm sure there are.
Yeah, there have been.
Just about, the everyday friends and family that we have. They don't have to explain who they are. And I loved that. Because TV shows nowadays, they come up with a new character or something, and there's something big about them. Like, oh my gosh, I have to be this because they don't want me to be that. It's like, just let them be. Yeah. Let us.
The new chief of surgery starting today, and I hear she is Hispanic.
or gay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it was nice. Right. It was really lovely to see that this was just there. It's not about tolerance. It's not about acceptance. It's about life. And even though this is a fictional cartoon, it felt like a little piece of real life because these things exist. They're absolutely gorgeous things that exist. And we should just let it live.
Yeah, and I should probably clarify a little bit that I I've done a lot of videos about Caped Crusader and what I think about it ahead of release, and I've done that review now. And a lot of the comments I've had have been like, most people are on board with it, but every now and then there's like that one or two people that just start foaming at the mouth.
It's because they want attention, and they're sad little boys or girls that just don't. It's not the way that they wanted it to be. They saw it some other way, and then it's like, meh.
Well, yeah, there is an element of that.
I said what you wanted to say.
There was he was relatively polite, but he was arguing that it's inexcusable to try and whitewash the past. By like making it seem like there wasn't racism or homophobia. The thing is, that's not what they're doing.
No, that's not what they're doing.
Because one, this isn't set in the 40s. They never state the date. There's no like cultural references to it. It's literally just the look and the technology. It's completely separate. Much in the same way that Batman the Animated Series technically wasn't set in the 90s, even though there are a couple of instances where you can see a date. And Bruce Timm has lamented that. He's gone, we never should have done that. That should never have got through. And also, listen, I mean this lovingly. If you want to learn about history and what the United States was like in the 1940s, you shouldn't be looking to learn about it from a Batman cartoon that was made in 2024. You could learn what America was like in the 1940s by watching these 1940s Batman serials. Some of them are actually quite intolerably racist by today's standards. But, I would recommend, one, reading a book. And if you don't like reading, watch a documentary. Watch a variety of different documentaries. I'm sure there's tons on YouTube. They'll be on Netflix as well. Don't go looking to be educated about the past from a modern Batman cartoon, okay?
And don't you dare talk about whitewashing to a woman that is from Oklahoma. Don't you dare do it. Because I know what whitewashing is, and this is not it.
No, that's quite right. And I think that they were right to avoid the prevailing morality of that time period, because it would have distracted from what is an excellent adventure cartoon.
Inspired is a great word to say. Inspired by the 40s.
Yeah.
Now that we got that out of the way.
Yeah, kind of went on a bit of a rant. So can I just bring up something that I mentioned in my review, but I've been thinking about it a lot more.
For sure.
And it's the title sequence.
I like it.
The title sequence is almost the opposite of Batman the Animated Series title sequence. So Batman the Animated Series had a vibrant, action-filled, colourful, dedicated title sequence that was animated exclusively for the purposes of being the title sequence. Yeah, it was an action scene with bombastic, loud, over-the-top music. It was exciting.
Love that Shirley Walker.
Well, that one was Danny Elfman.
Oh!
Yeah, I know. Danny Elfman
wrong.
composed that music. Well, it's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. Shirley Walker did the lion's share, and she's the far better Batman composer in my eyes.
Love you.
But Caped Crusader's intro is slow. It's quiet. The music is so subtle. It's strings, and there's bells in there. It's very soft. And the action, air quotes action, from the title sequence is actually just mostly stills from the show with a sepia tone over it and like a textured filter that make it look like
grainy.
A grain filter. That's what it's called. Yeah, and it's kind of cut about. It's interspersed with just stills of the beautiful background paintings. It's just so completely the opposite.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's the opposite of Batman the Animated Series, and it really states their intent with this show. Now, Batman the Animated Series had a lot of like really flashy animation. Like, if you think of the pilot episode On Leather Wings, there's Man-Bat's transformation. There's the scene where Batman gets dragged through the Gotham City skyline by Man-Bat, and he's like twirling around and doing 180-degree spins, and the camera pans around the police blimp. There's none of that in this episode. It's much more grounded. It's more it's not flashy. I feel like they're more confident as a creative team. They don't feel like they have to impress people with visual flair and going over the top. They just go like, here's our story, here are our characters, let it all hang out and go, there you go. What do you think?
So one thing I did notice is, not talking about flashy, is there were moments where I did get a feeling of BTAS.
Yes.
And that was they're not long action scenes, but I believe they're shorter action scenes in my opinion. You still get that BTAS feel. And I love that. A lot of the other, it's completely different to me because it's more based on but it's more on the people rather than the action. But in those action scenes, I felt like, oh, this could have been in BTAS.
Yeah, it very much could have. Do you know what I realised we didn't talk about?
What?
We didn't talk about didn't talk very much about the supporting characters.
Yeah, well, we get to those in later episodes.
Yeah, but this one introduces us to the Gordons,
yes.
Harvey Dent,
Renee.
Alfred. No, Renee's not in the first episode.
Oh my gosh, Alfred.
Yeah.
I love this rendition of Pennyworth.
Pennyworth. That wasn't a very good impression, I'm sorry. But yeah,
Pennyworth in this series is quite a bit different.
Yes, so we're not just talking about him being stocky. He is very much an enabler for Batman, and you can tell that he feels tremendous guilt.
About something.
Yeah, about something. And he is enabling Batman. He is supporting him in his mission unwaveringly, even though you can tell he thinks it's a bad idea. And Batman is so cold towards him. He refers to him as Pennyworth, as we've made multiple references to.
Yeah.
But Alfred is not his surrogate father, as he is in most other Batman media. He's someone that is in Bruce Wayne's employ. Now, Alfred obviously cares deeply for Bruce, but Bruce does not seem to reciprocate. At least initially he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's very, stern and terse with him. Alfred is his driver, basically. Alfred fixes him up when he's wounded. That's about it.
That's how you feel. Yeah. As in, you get that feeling that he's not the jolly Alfred that's just going to be, happy to see him and all of that.
He does still make quips, but, he's quite different personality-wise.
Yeah.
But so lovely.
I think Gordon's a little different as well. A little more tamed, in my opinion, from the Gordon of the animated series. Now, Barbara
is a lawyer.
I know. I love Barbara.
Yes. She's a what do they call it? A public defender, where you get assigned cases.
Yeah, public defender, yeah.
Where she gets assigned to people who can't afford a lawyer. And she is very much presented as the opposite to Harvey Dent. Now, Harvey Dent is the district attorney. He's a prosecutor. He makes deals for the wealthy, as we'll see in later episodes. Whereas Barbara Gordon is the defender of the everyman, even those that do something wrong. In this episode, she's defending someone who was part of a criminal gang and is being... he's basically having the blame for the crime being assigned to him, even though it wasn't actually him. Yes, he was part of the gang. Yes, he was involved, but he was not the ringleader. But he was being treated as it. Barbara Gordon is very fair. And
she is... Sorry I interrupted you, but she is what you want... What a lawyer's supposed to be. That believes that jail isn't just to be, put someone away for just forever.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's about... redemption. And that, oh my God, I love that so much. And the fact that throughout this series, it really shows that this character cares, and not just about, the people that didn't do it.
Yeah.
She really thinks that people can change.
Yeah, and she even defends Ronnie Cobblepot. When he comes to testify, I suppose it is to testify, he goes to Barbara Gordon. And when the Penguin learns of this, she sends her henchman after him. And that's that scene from the trailer where there's those guys in the bowler hats that are shooting at her. She gets a gun out and she starts shooting back at them. And then she takes them, Ronnie, to GCPD to testify to her dad. Where she perhaps naively thinks that they're untouchable there, but Penguin shows them otherwise, as we previously discussed. But when the danger becomes clear to her, she pulls the fire alarm and tells everyone to get out. She doesn't run off on her own, going, "Oh my God, got to save my own skin."
Opposite of Bullock.
Yeah, she is.
And this is another point that is in my head about this show, is that it is not. I mean, obviously, it's a fictional cartoon, but it's not a fairy tale. You don't have one place that is the safest place. Like, you would think, police department would be one of the safest places. But no, it's not. And this, in the first episode, is showing you that this city is at war with each other, and the police are not even, they're not even safe.
No, they're not. And they're also heavily involved with the mob.
Yeah.
Bullock is obviously reporting to Penguin. He also reports to Rupert Thorne. They're basically playing both sides against each other and skimming money off the top.
Mm-hmm. So I had one more thing I wrote down, because I wrote down 3 things, because I knew that Luke would end up reminding me of things along the way. And I think you touched on this earlier, but I know for a fact you touched on this earlier. I have Hamish does a great job at separating Batman from Bruce.
Yes.
And it's not just the voice. I mean, obviously, it's just the voice, but it's not just, Bruce has a different voice to Batman.
It's not like, I'm Batman.
Yeah,
I'm Bruce Wayne.
It is so different, but still the same.
Yes, it is. You're right. Yeah, you're right. It's the same voice, but he uses slightly different inflection.
Yeah, inflection. That was the word I was trying to think of.
Oh, you reminded me of that scene where, so he's rummaging around in the underbelly of the Iceberg Lounge, and the Penguin and her sons come in, and he dives through a hole in the bottom and swims out. And then he comes out on the other side, climbs up the ladder, and Barbara Gordon's there, and he goes, "I guess it's not a real party unless someone falls overboard."
Yeah, I think...
Barbara does not laugh.
Yeah.
Bruce just stares at her, and then he walks over to the next group of people, and he goes, "I guess it's not a real party unless someone falls overboard," in exactly the same inflection. And then he gets the result he wants, which people go, "Ha ha ha, oh, silly Bruce, of course stupid Bruce Wayne fell in the water. Oh, Bruce, you cad."
I think that is the scene where I wrote this note down. And it's just, it boggles my mind that there are a lot of people that do Batman and that have done Batman. In my opinion, there's 3 or 4 that have done it really, really well. There's one that was the master of Batman.
Adam West. I liked Adam West too, sorry.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy. But Hamish, I'm going to say this, and it might piss people off. It might, be in agreement or whatever. Is probably in my top 5 now. He's almost got a number 3 spot.
Who's your number 2?
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker, really?
Yeah. Okay. Duh. It's my best friend.
So who is your current number 3?
My current number 3... I don't know.
I thought you were going to say Michael Keaton.
Well, I mean, I would talk about the animated ones.
Oh, just animated ones. Okay.
We're talking about favorite Batmans. That's number 2.
Okay. That's why I was surprised. I was like, oh, really?
No, he's, Hamish, you know what? He's my number 3. He's never going to listen to this, but he's my number 3.
Might do. If you're listening, Hamish, leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith left a comment on the Onomatopoeia video.
I love Kevin Smith.
I know, I made the joke saying, Kevin, if you're watching, finish your Batman story, goddammit. I'm in tenterhooks or whatever I said. And he left a comment saying, "I enjoyed this video." I was like, oh no.
He seems like such a sweetheart.
Yeah. But yeah. What else do we want to say about this first episode? Oh, I'll tell you what, we haven't talked about Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
Yes, so Harvey.
This is a Harvey Dent I didn't see coming, because he's not the ultra sweet Harvey, I'm like the best, brightest, most awesome Boy Scout there is. This Harvey has flaws. the only thing I'm going to complain about with the Harvey situation is how young they made him look.
That's very intentional, though. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be like the beautiful, bright baby boy.
I know, but that's what pisses me off. Is like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always those people. So the art was amazing. Like, the people who created these characters and like the actual thing, you did a great job, because that's...
Character designers.
Yeah, the designers. Because that character pisses me off. And in a way where it's like, in a way where like you need it to.
Yeah, we touched upon this earlier about how
that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
it does.
good.
We were talking earlier about how Harvey Dent makes deals for the rich people.
Mm-hmm.
We see more of this in later episodes.
Yeah.
But he's there at the commissioner's ball, or the police fundraiser and the Iceberg Lounge, schmoozing people. And you know what's really funny? Batman actually seems to enjoy his company.
Yeah.
He does, because even though, he's putting on his Bruce Wayne voice, but it slips a few times, and his real Batman voice comes out throughout the series as well.
Yeah.
And he actually does seem to consider Harvey Dent his friend, even though Batman describes it later on, saying Harvey Dent sometimes put his thumb on the scale of justice, but he is not corrupt.
Yeah. That's a perfect explanation of Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Even in other renditions of Harvey Dent, it's that, putting the thumb.
Because he has a genuine desire to want to clean up Gotham. But he's trying to do it from within the corrupt system. And that's never going to work.
No. It's one of those things where you have to do this to get that.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it never works. Or if it does work, it's not going to work soon.
Yeah, it's temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only works while it's convenient for it to work.
Yeah. And, this is something that you could put into real life, and it sucks, but a lot of people that would be in the same position as Harvey Dent have done that, will do that. It's not going to change. Unfortunately for this character, when he tries to do the right thing, it was just with all of the Harvey Dents, when they try to do the right thing and whatnot, it's
yeah, you know what happens.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, you know what happens.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that episode.
Yeah.
So I think we can stop there.
Yeah, unless you've got any final thoughts.
I don't. I loved it.
Yeah. Do you know, this is going to sound funny, but I think this was actually my least favourite episode of the whole series.
Watch your mouth.
No, I'm not saying it's bad, but I just enjoyed the other ones more. This one is good, and I enjoyed it, but the next episode in particular, oh my God, I love that next episode so much.
So this episode, as you know, Luke, I am a huge fan of Mae West. I'm a huge fan of... most of my favorite movies are from probably the 1930s, 40s, 50s. And this really gave me a sense of watching one of those movies.
Yeah.
And I loved the feeling it gave me. I loved the feeling I got when I saw the characters for the first time. Especially Lady Penguin, as I'm going to forever and always call them now.
Ozzy is what I'm going to say.
It made me feel, first off, nostalgic. But it made me feel good because it wasn't just going to be a carbon copy of something.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I was afraid that they were going to try to redo BTAS.
Yeah.
But BTAS has been done.
Yes. Yeah.
And we needed something new. And I think this was as perfect as it could be.
Yeah, and there's just two little notes I just want to make about how, just following up on what you said about how it's enhanced BTAS. So, like you, I thought they were just going to do similar stories, but they were just going to be a bit more explicit, maybe show like stabbings and shootings and stuff. And people do get shot.
Yeah.
People do die. People get blown up.
You see blood.
People get blown up in the Rupert Thorne's factories when the Penguin bombs them. But it's not explicit. It doesn't linger on the violence. I think the worst thing is like Batman breaks someone's finger and you see the finger just like bend in an unnatural way. And he dangles a corrupt politician in front of a train that comes very close to taking his head off. But the other thing as well is that while all of these episodes, pretty much all of these episodes, can be watched as like a one and done thing, and most villains only appear in one episode each, it's a sequential story from episode to episode.
Yeah.
There are a number of plots that run from episode to episode. There's Harvey Dent's mayoral campaign. There's the Commissioner Gordon's struggle with the corruption within the police department and City Hall. There's Alfred's guilt over something
that we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. There are suggestions as what it might be.
Yeah, hopefully in season 2 we find out.
Yes, yeah. And basically, it is a worthy successor to Batman the Animated Series.
It's not I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on and on. This is a podcast. I can talk about whatever I want to within reason. I loved the fact that it wasn't anti-B-test. It wasn't like you were saying about like the blood and the violence and stuff. Yes, it's more adult oriented. As when I say that, I mean you can show things because this is on Amazon. You can show things like blood and stuff like that. Shot. Yeah, and people getting hurt. But it wasn't saying, "Oh, we're not B-Tass. We're not B-Tass. We're something different." It wasn't. Because you had little things in there that I think were in there on purpose.
Of course they were.
That were giving an homage to it. So I really like that because there are some things that get remade that are just like, "Oh, we're not this. We're brand new." But this was like, "Hey, we're going to give into it. We're going to go into it. We're going to, remind you of these characters. We're going to put little newspaper clippings in here and there. And we know that this existed before, but ours is different."
Yeah.
And it wasn't so like, I just loved it so much.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that about most of these episodes.
Yeah, especially the next episode.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. We're not going to do comments in this one, but please leave comments, and what we'll do is we will get to most of them
we'll respond.
In another video. But these 10 episodes that we're doing about Caped Crusader, we are just going to do all of them. And we're going to get them out there. But please comment. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Bye.